Have you ever come across a quote that feels like it's been waiting for you, lurking in the pages of history, ready to shake up how you see your own life? That's how John D. Rockefeller's words hit me. I would rather earn 1% off of 100 people's efforts than 100% of my own efforts. It's deceptively simple, isn't it? On the surface, it's a business tip from one of the wealthiest men who ever lived. A guy who turned oil into an empire and philanthropy into a legacy. But peel back the layers, and it becomes a mirror reflecting our ambitions, our fears, our ethics, and the very way we build connections in this world. It's not just about money or power, it's about the human dance of collaboration, the tension between self-reliance and interdependence, and the lingering questions that make you pause, doubt, and ultimately grow. Let's dive into this together, not in a rushed bullet point way, but like a long, wandering conversation that leaves you with thoughts to chew on for days, lessons to apply, and maybe even a shift in how you approach your next big decision. To truly understand a quote as potent as Rockefeller's, you have to understand the world that forged the man. His principle wasn't conceived in a vacuum. It was hammered into shape on the anvil of a uniquely American life, one defined by a profound and constant tension between disciplined piety and audacious opportunism. John D. Rockefeller was not born a titan. He was born into a household that was a living paradox, and it was in navigating this paradox that he discovered his philosophy. Imagine a young boy born in 1839 in the rustic quiet of upstate New York, torn between two opposing forces that shared the same name, father. On one side was William "Big Bill" Rockefeller, a charismatic phantom who would materialize and vanish from the family's life. Big Bill was a traveling salesman, a peddler of herbal remedies who called himself a botanic physician, and, in the eyes of many, a con artist. He was a man of grand gestures and fluid ethics, rumored to have another family, another life, just over the horizon. Yet, he was John's first teacher in the art of the deal. You can almost picture him, a twinkle in his eye, loaning money to his own children, at interest or boasting, as he later did. "I cheat my boys every chance I get. I want to make 'em sharp." From Big Bill, John learned that money was a game, that sentiment was a liability, and that every transaction held a hidden angle if you were clever enough to find it. On the other side was his mother, Eliza, the anchor to his father's drifting kite. A devout Baptist, she ran the household with a quiet, unshakable discipline. While Big Bill taught John the art of earning, Eliza taught him the art of keeping. She preached the gospel of hard work, frugality, and unwavering morality. From her came the almost spiritual belief in order and accounting. It was Eliza who encouraged him, at just 16 years old, to start a small, bound ledger, Ledger A, where he meticulously recorded every single penny earned and spent. This small book, now a museum artifact, is perhaps the most crucial window into his mind. The 50 cents a day from his first real job as a bookkeeper in Cleveland, the tithe dutifully given to his church, the small expenses for clothing or postage. It wasn't just accounting, it was a moral system. It was the imposition of absolute order onto the chaos of life. These two forces, his father's transactional opportunism and his mother's rigid, systematic frugality, created the man. He had the soul of a bookkeeper and the ambition of a gambler. The perfect stage for this unique character arrived in 1859 with the discovery of oil in the murky creeks of Pennsylvania. A black, greasy fever dream swept the nation. Men rushed to Titusville, buying up plots of land, frantically drilling into the earth, hoping to strike it rich. It was a chaotic, high-stakes game of 100% effort for a 100% return, with the constant, looming risk of 100% failure. Fortunes were made and lost overnight. This was Big Bill's world, a world of speculation and wild bets. But John, the meticulous bookkeeper, saw something different. He saw not opportunity in the chaos, but opportunity in organizing the chaos. While others were gambling on what came out of the ground, Rockefeller focused on what happened after it came out of the ground. The real bottleneck, the point of maximum leverage, wasn't in drilling, it was in refining and transportation. In 1863, he made his move, investing in his first refinery. This was the pivot. He realized he didn't need to own the wells, he needed to control the flow. Every wildcatter who struck oil, every speculator who succeeded in their 100% effort, would eventually have to come to him. He would refine their crude, transport their product, and take a small, seemingly insignificant percentage from every single barrel. His risk was minimized, his reach multiplied. He was no longer a player at the table, he was becoming the house. This was the birth of Standard Oil, founded in 1870. What followed was a masterclass in the application of his principle on a terrifyingly grand scale. He secured secret, preferential rates from the railroads, allowing him to undercut any competitor. He bought out rivals, one by one, methodically, relentlessly. He integrated vertically, controlling everything from the white oak barrels that held the oil to the pipelines that moved it across the country. He saw competition not as a healthy feature of the market, but as a sin, a form of waste. His goal was to create a single, perfectly efficient system, and he was the one to design it. By the 1880s, Standard Oil controlled 90% of America's oil refining, a sprawling empire built not on drilling for oil, but on earning a percentage from the efforts of an entire industry. Rockefeller retired as the world's first billionaire, a figure both reviled for his ruthless methods and praised for the cheap, reliable kerosene that lit up a nation. But the empire, and the philanthropy that followed, were all born from that core idea forged in his youth, that true power lies not in the frantic, exhausting application of your own 100% effort, but in the calm, systematic, and intelligent leveraging of the 1% efforts of 100 or 100,000 others. Rockefeller's empire of oil and iron may seem like a relic from a distant, sepia-toned era, but the principle he perfected is anything but. His methods didn't die when Standard Oil was broken up, they simply shed their skin. The trust of the 19th century evolved into the platform of the 21st. If you want to see Rockefeller's ghost, don't look for it in an oil field. Look for it in the cloud, in the code that powers your smartphone, and in the cardboard box that arrives on your doorstep with startling speed. The new titans of our age, the architects of our digital reality, are all his disciples. Whether they know it or not, they're the masters of modern leverage. Consider the empire that Jeff Bezos built. Amazon did not become a trillion-dollar behemoth by simply being a good bookstore. A single bookstore is a 100% effort. It has 4 walls, a finite number of books, and is limited by the number of customers who can physically walk through its doors. Bezos, like Rockefeller, was never interested in the limits of a single storefront. He was interested in building a system. Amazon's true product is not the book or the toaster it sells you. Its product is the platform itself, a near-perfect engine of leverage. First, it leverages the efforts of millions of third-party sellers. These are the modern-day wildcatters. They are the countless small businesses and entrepreneurs who spend their time, money, and energy sourcing products, managing inventory, and creating listings. They do the legwork, taking on the risk. Amazon simply provides the digital shelf space, the audience, and the logistics. And for that privilege, it takes its commission, its 1%. But the leverage doesn't stop there. It extends to the physical world through Amazon Web Services, AWS, the vast cloud computing platform that powers a huge portion of the internet. Thousands of other companies, from tiny startups to giants like Netflix, build their entire businesses on Amazon's infrastructure, paying a fee to leverage its immense technological effort. Bezos, like Rockefeller before him, positioned himself to control the refinery and the pipeline, not just the oil itself. This same principle, stripped down to its barest essentials, is the blueprint for the gig economy. Consider Uber or Lyft. These are transportation companies that own no cars. This would have been an absurdity in the 20th century, but it is the pinnacle of leverage in the 21st. The company doesn't invest its capital in a fleet of vehicles. It leverages the capital of its drivers. The drivers provide the car, the insurance, the fuel, and the maintenance. They provide the 100% effort of their time, navigating city streets and waiting for the next fare. Uber provides only one thing: the technology, the algorithm that connects a rider with a driver. For creating this digital meeting place, this system of leverage, it takes a substantial percentage of every single fare. The model is so ruthlessly efficient that it has reshaped urban transportation, but it also atomizes the workforce, turning a stable job into a series of gigs with no benefits, no security, and no clear path forward. Perhaps the most potent form of this modern leverage exists in the ecosystems we carry in our pockets. When Steve Jobs unveiled the iPhone, the device itself was a marvel of 100% effort from Apple's design and engineering teams. But its long-term, world-changing genius was the App Store. With the App Store, Apple created a playground and invited the world to come and build the toys. Hundreds of thousands of developers, from massive gaming studios to solo coders working in their basements, have since spent billions of hours and dollars creating the apps that make the iPhone indispensable. They pour their creativity, passion, and labor into the ecosystem. Apple, in turn, provides the platform, the standards, and the payment system, and for that, it collects its 15 to 30% commission. It is Rockefeller's principle applied to creativity itself. Google's Android Play Store operates on the exact same model. The most valuable real estate in the world is no longer on a city street. It is the screen of a smartphone, and its landlords have become the wealthiest companies in history by leveraging the efforts of others to build upon it. The common thread is undeniable. The most powerful forces in our economy are not defined by what they make, but by the systems they control. They are the architects who build the stage, and then take a percentage from every performance, every transaction, every connection that happens upon it. The efficiency is breathtaking, the innovation undeniable. But as we live more and more of our lives within these masterfully built systems, buying from their stores, riding in their cars, using their apps, we are forced to ask a disquieting question. What is the human cost of being someone else's 1%? To embrace Rockefeller's maxim without examining its shadow is to admire the gleaming locomotive while ignoring the smoke and the soot. For every story of multiplied efficiency, there is a parallel story of diminished humanity. The same mathematics that builds empires can also justify exploitation. This is the uncomfortable truth at the core of the 1% principle. When you begin to see other people as mere fractions of an effort, you risk losing sight of the whole person. The moment a human becomes a percentage point, a resource to be leveraged, a data point in an algorithm, the ethical ground begins to tremble. This is not a new critique. A generation after Rockefeller built his empire, Karl Marx diagnosed this very dynamic, not as leverage, but as alienation. He argued that industrial capitalism systematically separates workers from the value of their own labor. The craftsman who builds a whole chair feels a sense of ownership and pride, a 100% connection. The factory worker who spends all day attaching one leg to an endless procession of chairs feels disconnected, a cog in a machine whose ultimate purpose and profits are distant from them. The owners of the factory, in this view, aren't just leveraging labor. They are capturing the surplus value, the difference between what the workers are paid and the final worth of what they create. Rockefeller's quote, viewed through this lens, sounds less like a clever business maxim and more like a frank confession of this exact process. Today, this alienation has taken on new, technologically advanced forms. The warehouse worker in an Amazon fulfillment center, whose every step is tracked and optimized by an algorithm, is not a collaborator in a grand vision. They are a unit of effort, measured for efficiency down to the second. The Uber driver, following the app's directions to a destination they didn't choose for a wage they don't set, is not an independent entrepreneur in any meaningful sense. They are a leveraged asset in a system that has privatized the profits while socializing the risks, the costs of vehicle maintenance, insurance, and the physical toll of precarious work onto the individual. The promise of flexibility in the gig economy often masks a reality of instability, where the 1% of 100 people's efforts leaves those 100 people competing against each other in a race to the bottom. This dynamic inevitably widens the chasm of inequality. The very mathematics of the principle dictates that wealth and power will concentrate at the top. When one person can effectively harness the output of thousands or millions, the rewards flow upwards in a torrent. As of the early 2020s, the world's richest 1% have consistently held a disproportionate and growing share of global wealth. This isn't an accident or a market failure. It is the logical outcome of a system designed around leverage. Rockefeller's monopoly was so vast it had to be broken up by the Supreme Court. Today's tech monopolies have a reach that transcends national borders, creating a new class of technobarons whose wealth and influence rival that of nations. The most insidious cost, however, may be the slow erosion of our own perspective. When we become accustomed to the seamless convenience of these leveraged systems, the instant delivery, the on-demand car, the endless stream of content, we can become insulated from the human effort that makes it all possible. The person who packed your box, the driver who brings your food, the ghostwriter in a far-off country who created the listicle you just read, they all become invisible, their 100% effort abstracted away behind a clean user interface. The system is so efficient that it erases the humanity behind it. It trains us to be passive consumers, not active citizens, and in doing so, it makes us complicit in a world we may not have consciously chosen to build. The great ethical challenge, then, is to live within these systems without adopting their cold calculus as our own. It's tempting to relegate Rockefeller's maxim to the impersonal world of high finance and big technology, to see it as a rule that governs others. But the truth is, we all operate a personal economy of time, energy, and attention. We make decisions every day about where to invest our own 100% effort and where to seek the 1% of others. It is in these small personal calculations that the principle reveals its most immediate and challenging nature. This isn't just about building an empire, it's about building a life. Consider the freelancer, the consultant, or the small business owner, the modern embodiment of the self-reliant individual. For years, I, like many others, operated on the 100% principle. Every article written, every email answered, every invoice sent was a product of my own direct effort. This path offers the intoxicating illusion of total control. You own your work, your successes, and your failures completely. But this path has a hard, unforgiving ceiling. That ceiling is the 24 hours in a day. Burnout isn't a risk, it's an inevitability. To grow, you must confront Rockefeller's choice. Do you hire an assistant to handle scheduling? Do you partner with a marketer to find new clients? Do you collaborate with a peer on a larger project? Each of these steps is an act of leverage. It is also an act of profound vulnerability. The moment you delegate, you are forced to trust. You must trust that someone else will care about your work, that they will meet your standards, that they will not fail you. This is the great psychological barrier to personal leverage. The ego whispers, "No one can do it as well as I can." Overcoming that whisper is the first step in moving from being just a doer to an architect of your own success. When it fails, the lesson is painful. But when it works, it is liberating. You are no longer just adding to your workload. You are multiplying your impact. This dynamic is even more potent in our closest relationships. A marriage or a partnership, that operates on a 100% principle for one person is a partnership destined for resentment. The partner who takes on the full burden of the emotional labor, the household chores, the financial planning, that person is on a solo march toward exhaustion. Healthy interdependence is a form of mutual leverage. You cook, they clean. You manage the finances, they manage the social calendar. You leverage each other's strengths, creating a shared system of support that is far more resilient than the sum of its parts. It requires constant communication and the humility to admit you can't and shouldn't do it all alone. Nowhere is this truer than in the heroic, draining work of parenting. The myth of the superparent who does it all, the 100% provider, educator, and caregiver, is a recipe for collapse. Leverage, for a parent, means building a village. It is the wisdom to leverage the efforts of teachers to educate, of grandparents to provide care and perspective, of a babysitting co-op to reclaim a few precious hours of sanity. The single mother who swaps childcare with a neighbor is practicing a form of leverage as sophisticated as any corporate merger. It is a strategic distribution of effort that strengthens the entire community. The fear that outsourcing diminishes your role as a parent is a fallacy. In reality, it frees you to focus your own effort where it matters most, on providing the love, guidance, and presence that only you can give. Even our own well-being is a field for leverage. Think of the person struggling with their health. The 100% approach is to rely on sheer willpower, to try and force new habits through discipline alone. A wiser path is to leverage external forces. You join a gym class to leverage the instructor's energy and the accountability of the group. You see a therapist to leverage their professional insight, allowing their targeted questions to unlock your own breakthroughs. These are not signs of weakness. They are signs of strategic wisdom. They are an acknowledgement that the self is not a fortress, but a network. In every corner of our lives, the choice presents itself. We can guard our 100% effort with a jealous pride, or we can have the courage to trust, to collaborate, and to connect. But this raises a vital question. If the path to growth, success, and even sanity is paved with the 1% of others, is there anything sacred left in the solitary, all-in effort? Is there still a place for the soul of the 100%er? For all its undeniable power, for all the empires it has built and the efficiencies it has created, there is a quiet rebellion that whispers against the Rockefeller principle. It is the rebellion of the craftsman, the artist, the solo scientist. The rebellion of anyone who has ever found meaning not in the act of delegation, but in the act of doing. This is not a rejection born of ignorance or ego. It is a conscious and profound choice to prioritize depth over breadth, mastery over scalability, and integrity over influence. It is the defense of the irreplaceable soul of the 100% effort. To the orchestrator, the manager, the person who lives by the 1% rule, the day is a series of transactions, meetings, emails, phone calls, and decisions. The primary work is managing the work of others. But for the craftsman, the work is an immersive, almost sacred act. Psychologists call this state flow, the deep, blissful immersion in a task where time seems to melt away. It is the carpenter feeling the grain of the wood under their hand, the writer wrestling with the rhythm of a single sentence, the chef obsessing over the perfect balance of flavors in a dish. This state of being is not a means to an end, it is the end in itself. The reward is not the scalable outcome, but the intrinsic joy of the work. This is a fulfillment that the most successful delegator, by the very nature of their role, can never truly experience. Furthermore, the 100% effort carries with it a unique and powerful moral weight, total ownership. When you are the sole creator, your name is not just a brand, it is a bond. Your signature on a painting, your name on the spine of a book, your stamp on a piece of handcrafted furniture, it is a personal guarantee of quality, a testament to the hours of struggle and dedication poured into the work. There is no one else to credit for the success and, more importantly, no one else to blame for the failure. This creates an unbreakable link between the creator and the creation. Leverage, by necessity, severs this link. It introduces layers of abstraction, making it easier to distance oneself from the final product and the methods used to achieve it. The craftsman does not have this luxury. Their soul is woven into the work. This path is often a deliberate rejection of scale. The master sushi chef whose restaurant has only 10 seats and is booked a year in advance has no interest in opening a global franchise. To do so would be to dilute the very essence of their craft. The goal is not to feed the maximum number of people, but to provide a perfect, uncompromisable experience to a select few. The poet who spends a decade perfecting a single volume of work is not trying to compete with the output of a content farm. They are on a different quest entirely. This philosophy argues that some things of great value are, by their very nature, unscalable. Love, mastery, and insight cannot be mass-produced. They are the fruits of a focused, singular, 100% effort. Ultimately, this rebuttal speaks to a fundamental human need: to see and feel the tangible results of our own labor. In a world increasingly dominated by abstract, leveraged systems, the act of growing a tomato, fixing a broken engine, or learning to play a song on the guitar is a radical act of reconnecting with the real. It gives us a sense of agency, a reminder that we are not just cogs in a machine but creators in our own right. The craftsman's path is not an argument against collaboration, but a testament to the value of the individual spirit. It reminds us that not everything in life is a problem to be solved with efficiency. Some things are mysteries to be explored through devotion. And so, the ultimate challenge for each of us is not to blindly choose one path over the other, but to develop the wisdom to know which parts of our life demand the full, undivided, and passionate measure of our 100% soul. The tension between the orchestrator and the craftsman, between the 1% of many and the 100% of one, has defined human progress for centuries. But we are now standing on the precipice of a change so profound it promises to recalibrate this entire equation. The rise of artificial intelligence is not just another tool. It is the perfection of the principle of leverage itself, an engine capable of harnessing the distilled efforts of all of human history and offering it on demand. AI is, in essence, leverage as a utility. The programmer using an AI assistant to write code is leveraging the patterns and solutions from millions of programmers who came before. The artist using an AI image generator is leveraging a visual memory of nearly every painting, photograph, and drawing ever uploaded to the internet. The scientist using AI to analyze a dataset is multiplying their own intellect, performing in hours what might have once taken a lifetime of 100% effort. This new reality presents us with two divergent and powerful possible futures. On one hand, AI offers a utopian promise, the democratization of leverage. It could empower the individual, the craftsman, with the capabilities of a massive corporation. A single person could design a complex product, generate the marketing materials, write the code, and manage the logistics, all through a suite of AI partners. This could unleash a new era of creativity and entrepreneurship, allowing the smallest players to build things at a scale previously unimaginable. It could be the ultimate tool for the 100%er to amplify their vision without sacrificing their soul. On the other hand, AI presents a centralizing threat that would make Rockefeller's monopoly look quaint. The companies that build and control the most powerful AI models, the new masters of the digital refineries, could possess a degree of influence over the global economy that is unprecedented in human history. If the cognitive labor of writers, analysts, coders, and designers can be leveraged through an AI, what becomes of the millions of humans who currently provide that effort? This path leads to a world of mass displacement, where the gap between those who own the engines of leverage and those who are made redundant by them becomes a chasm too wide to cross. This forces us to ask a new and urgent question. In a world where AI can handle the routine, scalable tasks, what is the future of human effort? The answer may be that our value shifts definitively toward the things that remain stubbornly, beautifully unscalable. Our 100% effort becomes more precious than ever when it is directed toward genuine originality, ethical judgment, emotional connection, and compassionate leadership. The most important human work of the future may not be doing the task, but guiding the leverage tool, asking the right questions, challenging the AI's assumptions, and steering its immense power toward humane ends. We began with a single, provocative sentence from a man of oil and iron. We followed its thread from the smoky dawn of the industrial age to the glowing screens of our own. We saw it as the blueprint for empires and the source of exploitation. We felt its pull in our own careers and relationships, and we heard the passionate rebuttal of the craftsman who chooses a different path. And now, we see that same principle being supercharged by forces that will reshape our world. Through it all, the one constant is that Rockefeller's words are not an answer. They are a question. They are a mirror held up to our own ambitions, our ethics, and our definition of a life well lived. To build a life of meaning is not to choose one side and reject the other, but to walk the tightrope between them with wisdom and intention. It is to know when to lead and when to follow, when to build a system and when to build a single perfect thing with your own two hands. The conversation is never truly over. The calculations are never final. All we can do is continue to ask the questions of our society and of ourselves. Where in my life am I a craftsman, and where am I an orchestrator? Am I using leverage to create shared value, or simply to extract it from myself? What is the work that is so essential to my soul that it demands nothing less than my entire 100%? And in a world of nearly infinite leverage, what will be my uniquely human contribution? To grapple with these questions is to be an active participant in the design of your own life. It is the most vital effort you will ever make,